Hi everyone, I'm Toga, and today we're going to be doing a 15-minute yoga class for your wrists and hands. This is really good for anyone who perhaps has a desk job or spends a lot of time typing, working at a computer. Perhaps you struggle with wrist issues, carpal tunnel. Maybe you're an athlete that does a sport that requires a lot of use for your hands and your wrists, things like rock climbing, golfing, pickleball, anything like that. This can also be tacked on to the beginning of your workouts, maybe if you lift or if you're doing a more intense yoga class, especially one that's going to see you on your hands and knees or coming into a lot of down dogs. It can be really good to use this sort of mini class to help prepare your wrists and your hands for whatever you're going to be doing next. So if you're ready, I invite you to meet me on your mat and have 2 blocks available. If you don't have blocks, you can stack a couple of books. You could even use 2 rolls of toilet paper. Just use whatever you have available in your space. And when you're ready, come to a comfortable seated position in whatever way works best for you. Straighten your spine, drop into your breath. And when you're ready, we're going to come into Anjali Mudra, which is when we just press our palms together, bringing our hands towards our chest, pressing your thumbs into your sternum pressing back, your spine a straight line of energy, crown lifting up towards the ceiling. And apply some pressure here with your palms. We're looking for an equal pressure right now. Pressing in so that we're right at our heart center. And then if it feels good, you can slowly start to move this pose over towards your right. And then coming back towards center and shifting it over to the left. And go ahead and keep doing this at your own pace, remembering to breathe. Just shifting here back and forth from the right to the left, keeping that pressure in your hands. And remember that this is your practice. Even though it's short, it's still yours. And if there's anything that's not working for you or that's causing any kind of pain, please feel free to do something else or adjust in whatever way makes sense for your body. And when you feel equal on all sides, bring your hands back to heart center. And then we'll go ahead and do some circles here. So we're going to take our palms and gently start bringing our fingers, still clasped together, down towards the mat. Keep going all the way until you feel your hands start to come apart. And when that happens, keeping your fingertips still pressed together, you can go ahead and turn your hands so that the backs of your hands are now pressing against each other. And then bring those hands up so that your fingertips are coming through, pointing towards your heart, and then up towards your chin, coming around as if you're opening up a book with your hands and then closing them. Now we'll do that again. This can be a little confusing at first, so take it as slow as you need to. Dropping those fingertips down, going away from you down towards the mat until you feel your palms start to come apart, at which point you can just keep your fingertips touching as you slowly rotate around so that the backs of your hands are now pressed against each other, bringing up those fingertips through, pointing through heart center, then up towards your chin, coming back around as if your hands are closing a book, and then back towards your heart center. One more time here. Fingers pointing down, hands pressing together until you start to feel the palms pull apart. Keeping those fingertips together, rotating the hands so that the backs of the hands press against each other, and then pulling those fingers up through, passing through your heart, coming up to your chin, turning out like the inside of a book, and then closing that book, coming back into Anjali Mudra with your palms pressed together towards your heart center. And then you can go ahead and release that. Maybe shake your wrists out here. Shake your hands. And then we'll take some wrist circles. So moving your wrists first in one direction, making these circles as little or as big as you need. Finding your breath here. And then going back the other direction. And when you feel equal on both sides, you can take those hands out. You can take them outstretched, or you can keep them in with your elbows bent. And we'll just do some wrist flexes here. So inhale, flex your fingers towards your face, wherever your hands are. And exhale, bend them away, putting your fingers down, dropping them towards the mat. Inhale, hands lift up, fingers bend slightly towards your face, going just as far as your range of motion allows for. And exhale, extending away, fingers drop down towards the mat. Inhale, flex. Exhale, extend. And one more time, inhale, flexing towards your face. And exhale, extend. And then you can drop your hands, coming back to a neutral position here. And then if you're ready, I invite you to meet me on your hands and knees in a tabletop position, having those blocks nearby. We're going to go ahead and put our hands on top of our blocks so that our fingertips are sort of lifting off of the very edge of our blocks here. If this doesn't work for you, or you don't want to be on hands and knees, you can go ahead and do this on a seat in whatever comfortable position works for you, and just do some more of those flexing and extending. But if you'd like to try this, let those fingertips drift over the edge of the blocks, and then on your inhale, lift those fingertips up off the block, bringing them a little bit closer towards your face. And exhale, let them come back down to the block. See if you can turn your elbows so that the eyes of your elbow right here are facing out a little bit more. Inhale, lift your fingers off the block. Exhale, let them come back down. Inhale, fingers up. Exhale, press them back down. And one more time here, inhale, lifting your fingers off the block, and exhale, letting them rest back down. And now we'll do a similar version of this, except we're shifting our hands to the middle of the block now. And instead of lifting up our fingers, we're going to lift up our actual palms. So on your inhale, lifting up on your fingers just as far as feels okay and as far as you can go, lifting up, letting that palm hover, and then exhaling, bringing it back down to the block. You can also do this on the mat. If you don't have blocks or you don't want to use them, you can just do this on the mat as well. So once more, inhaling, lifting those palms up, keeping the fingers pressed down against the mat or the props, and exhaling, dropping those palms back down. One more time, inhaling, lifting those palms up, exhaling, back down to the props. Excuse me. All right, so now we can go ahead and shift those blocks out of the way, and we'll just come into some wrist stretches in tabletop here. Again, if tabletop is not working for you today, you can do these stretches with your arms outstretched just in front of you, and you can be seated on a block or on the mat, and you can just do them this way. So it's whatever is working for you today. If you'd like to come into tabletop, you can. And we'll start in a neutral tabletop. So Your wrists are going to be stacked underneath your shoulders. Your knees are going to be stacked underneath your hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked. And when you're ready, you're going to start to gently rock forward and rock back over those wrists. Keeping your breath steady here. Being very gentle, going only as far as your body is allowing right now. And if this feels good, you can keep doing this. If you'd like to get into a couple different angles of your wrists, you can come back to a neutral center, and then you can turn your wrists out, so pressing your left hand so that your left hand is facing the left side of your mat and your right hand is facing the right side of your mat. And then you can gently sway from side to side here, or you can stay in stillness if that is what feels best. You're shifting over each wrist. Be gentle with yourself, especially if this is after a long day, or perhaps even the first thing you're doing with your day. And when you feel balanced on this side, come back to center. And then you can turn your hands so that they're facing in, facing each other, coming towards the center of the mat. And then we'll do the same thing, gently swaying from side to side, rocking from right to left over your wrists here. Staying in stillness if that's what feels best for you right now. And when you're ready, coming back to center. And then you can keep doing these wrist stretches with your fingers pointed towards the top of your mat. If it feels okay, you can turn your palms back so that your fingers are pointing towards your knees. Your forearms are going to be pointed out towards the top of your mat. And if it feels good here, you can do some more of those front and back rocks. This is going to stretch a little bit of your forearms as well as your wrists, and only go as far as feels okay. Be gentle with yourself here. And when you're ready, you can come back to the center. Come back into a neutral tabletop. And then you can take your right hand, and we're going to turn your hand so that your fingers are pointed towards the inside of the mat and that the back of your hand is pressing against the mat. If this is too much and you want to break, you can also sit back on your heels here, pressing that hand against the mat. Maybe that left hand stays up as support. So you can do this seated, or you can do this still in tabletop. Feel that stretch in that right wrist. And then release that. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So taking that left hand and flipping it over so that the back of your hand is pressing into the mat and your fingers are pointing in towards the center of the mat. Breathing in here. Maybe sinking back on your heels if you want to give your wrists a little bit of a break here. And then coming back into center, coming back into a neutral position, and then coming back into your comfortable seat, perhaps sitting on your heels if that's accessible to you, or maybe even sitting in hero's pose, scooting your heels out so that you can sink in between them, feeling free to use one of those blocks and sitting on them as an extra support, as an extra prop here if needed. And go ahead and shake those wrists out again. Maybe do a few more rotations, a few more wrist circles here. Your wrists should definitely be feeling something now. So allow yourself to acknowledge any sensation that might be going through them. And then if it feels good, you can interlace your hands in front of you, turn them out, and inhale up towards the sky. maybe leaning over to the right. Inhaling up, and then leaning over to the left, keeping those fingers interlaced here. And then inhaling back to center, bringing those hands down, releasing that grip. And then if it feels good, you can do the same thing but behind. So inhaling and sweeping your arms behind your back, interlacing your fingers, maybe putting the other finger or the other hand on top this time, and then pulling your hands down towards the mat. Maybe your gaze lifts. Breathing in here, acknowledging the time you took to take care of a part of the body that perhaps we sometimes forget about or neglect a little. Exhaling, releasing that. And then coming back to your comfortable seat. Thank you so much for taking this time to do this little mini flow for your hands and your wrists. I hope it was helpful, and I hope I will see you next time. I'm Toga. Be well.